Hey guys, today we are going to talk about active noise cancelling headphones. So at one point in time, when Bose was the top of the hill at this ANC game, anyone who would want noise cancelling will go for a Bose. And a lot of these customers end up to be air travelers, frequent air travelers. So if you were frequently flying around, you want the ANC from Bose and you buy a Bose. And when you buy a Bose, and at that point in time, QC25 or the QC35, it would most definitely mean that you are a frequent air traveler. And if you bought those Bose headphones anyway, and you're not flying around, you will soon end up to be flying around. That's how synonymous Bose was with active noise cancelling. There were very few competitors in this specific space, but today, in the year 2020, there are many more competitors in the space of active noise cancelling. You are no longer limited to Bose as your choice to go to. In fact, if you look at the headphones I have in front of you today, it does not include a Bose. So these are all the Bose alternatives that you can get your hands on in 2020. Let's dive right in. So these are all the active noise cancelling cans that I have, and you might be wondering, why do I need so many? Well, because each are good at different things, and I will go through that in a little bit. So ANC, in today's context with the pandemic and limited air travel, you don't really get a good opportunity to use these noise cancelling features on the headphones. But because we're all working from home, and the home isn't exactly the quietest place that you have around, when you have your spouse who is also working from home, and then you tend to get quite a bit of noise coming in from all over. Sometimes the vacuum needs to be on, sometimes the cooking needs to be done, so there will be noise. And especially at my place, I do get jets flying overhead. And with the noise cancelling functions on these headphones, I'm able to then block out some of the sound, and it allows me to concentrate on my work slightly better. But of course, you could say that all these are excuses. I just want more of these toys. Yes. So I paid for all these myself. These are my own personal opinion. Yours may be different because different people hear things differently. So for today, let me just go through what I like about these, and if there are any obvious flaws, I'll also bring them up. Now, so in my usual fashion of giving my summary up front, I'll go in very quickly, give you the summary, and if you are strapped for time, you don't have to watch the rest of the video. So first off, for pure musical performance, I'll go for the beyerdynamic. This is the Lagoon ANC. For pure bass performance, if you are listening to bass heavy music, the ones that I will go for will be the Beats Studio 3. If you are making a lot of calls and you need voice performance, you need the human voice to come out very clearly, or if you listen to a lot of podcasts, the ones that I'll go for will be the AirPods Pro. These are from Apple. In terms of build quality, out of the whole lot, nothing beats the B&W PX. So these are great in terms of build quality. If you're looking for pure comfort, then the ones that I'll go for will be the Sony WH-1000XM4. These also stand out in terms of noise cancelling. So out of the bunch that I have here, these are the cans that I'll go for if I need pure noise cancelling performance. So there you have it. These are my summary for all the phones that I have here. And depending on what your criteria is, you might choose different ones. Alright, so let's go through each of these 5 one at a time, and how I use them and how I like them or dislike them. So first up, this is the AirPods Pro. The AirPods Pro is a earbud. It's not the headphones like the rest that I have here. And I bought these because they are really small and inconspicuous. The best thing about this is the voice quality. Now, when you are speaking to someone, you will hear that the sound comes through very well. And if you are a big podcast listener, these are the ones to get. The voice that is coming through in a podcast sounds very natural. And it has transparency mode. The transparency mode on this guy, it is basically the opposite of noise cancelling. It tries to let in as much sound from the outside world into your ears as much as possible. So if you need to be aware of your surrounding, the transparency mode on the AirPods Pro actually sounds the most natural. It is as though you're not even wearing the headphones at all. But I have a problem with these guys. I make a lot of calls every day on any given work day, and these will barely last me 2 meetings. two long meetings. Of course, if it is a short call, then it's not so much of a problem. But if I were to get through a 2-hour meeting and I have a 2-hour meeting coming up, I am not very confident that it will get me through all the way to the end of the next 2-hour call. So of course you can put it back to the charging case, and the charging case will recharge these guys multiple times, maybe 4 or 5 times before it runs out of juice. But you know, if you are just going to be using them, then there will be some difficulties that you will encounter in terms of use case when you're trying to make calls consecutively one after another. The workaround to this is that you could use one side at a time. So you use the left one. When it runs out of battery, you swap to the right one and you put the left one back to charge. And when this runs out of battery, then you repeat the cycle again. But it is still then one-sided. So if you are okay with that kind of things, yes, this is actually pretty useful. It will last you quite a bit. And for taking calls, for podcasts, this guy is phenomenal. Sound quality wise, okay, I will explain a little bit more in my frequency testing. So next up, I have the Beyerdynamic Lagoon ANC. Now these guys are pretty amazing. The sound quality on this guy, in terms of musical performance, it is truly what I feel to be the best of the lot. They have an amazing function inside the app which they call the listening test. I don't know whether there's a better name for it or whether they should come up with a better name. But basically what it does is that it runs a series of tones and it checks with you whether you can hear it or you can't hear it. They will vary the pitch of the tone so that it checks your listening. It checks whether you are picking up the sound or not. And it will adjust the sound profile without you having to go into the equalizer. So after you run the listening test, you can either turn it on or off or any amount in between. And the sound difference that it makes after you run the listening test is pretty amazing. This is like what TruePlay is to Sonos, where it tailors the sound according to your room, except that this tailors sound according to your ears and your listening preference. Well, actually it tests more of your listening range, what frequencies you are sensitive to, and it tailors the sound profile in order to be able to match that with your listening. The resulting sound quality is truly nothing short of amazing. So of course these are noise cancelling headphones and you want to know how it performs in terms of noise cancelling. These noise cancellings are not the best. It is pretty comfortable still, you know, everything is very soft and it's very padded. So the passive noise cancelling should in theory work quite well, and it does work quite well. Except that when you are actually listening to it and you turn on the ANC, it does little to help with attenuating the sounds that are coming from outside. So if you're out for pure sound reduction, pure noise reduction, these won't be the ones that you want to go with. And this pair of phones, maybe it's a little bit old and that's why, but the whole construction is pretty plasticky, and the hinges, it maybe due to the age of this unit, is starting to creak a little. So even when you put it on and you are swiveling and turning your head around, you can actually hear the plastic creak a little bit. But if you're still and you're not like bobbing your head away, then that would not be an issue. So again, the summary of this guy is, if I find myself wanting the best musical performance, I go with the Lagoon ANC. You have to live with a few other nitpicks that I have, like, you know, the creaking sound or the ANC not being superior to any of these here, but these, in terms of pure musical performance, will be the ones that you want to go for. So next up, these are the B&W PX. A little bit old already. I think I got these for about 2 or 3 years already. And in terms of design, these are beautiful. Very, very well made, real leather, very soft at the headband. But the ear cups are a little bit small, except that it actually doesn't go straight in. There is a cavity inside this earpiece here. There's a lot of room for the sound to bounce around, but it does allow your ear to fit in a little bit nicely, release a little bit of pressure. In terms of durability, these are great. Metal hinges all around, very nicely damp and smooth, very little play throughout. And if I were to choose these guys, it would be for durability. It has aptX HD high res. Now, in terms of noise cancelling, not the best. And in terms of musical performance, the sound on this guy is pretty dark. There is kind of like an emphasis on the vocal range, but everything else falls away quite a little bit. So when you listen to vocals on this guy, the vocals, a singer will actually come through pretty well. I especially enjoy these guys with female vocals. So next up, we have the Beats Studio 3. This, very simple, these are bass monsters. If you want more bass, it is likely that you will go for this guy. None of the rest here will perform in terms of bass as well as these guys here. Durability, I'm not very sure. I've had this for over a year now. While the padding is all very soft, it does hold up quite a bit, but I rotate my headphones use quite a bit. If I were to use this, the clamping force is actually pretty high, and that makes it uncomfortable for use over an hour or maybe 2 hours. I had to use this for quite a while for a call, especially when this guy runs out of battery. I swapped to these guys before I got the Sony, but the pressure was actually making it very, very uncomfortable. How you adjust volume control on these guys are that there are buttons here. Now you're going to listen to this. This clicks when it's on you and you're using it and you want to adjust volume on this guy. You go click, you hear it very, very readily. It is just so loud and it sounds so plastic. I mean, there are other clicks on other devices that I have to hold up to my ear, and those clicks are reassuring. They're nice. It sounds like good quality clicks. But if this is going against my ear and clicking it means that it's clicking off against my ear, I don't enjoy that click. I really wonder what is the design principle behind having these buttons click so loud. It's not even anywhere near slightly damped. So if I were to adjust volume on this guy, I actually have to go to my phones or go to my Mac to adjust the volume via the software rather than physically on these buttons. It's just so irritating to reject call and everything. It's why Beats? Why? But in terms of bass, yes, this guy will be the ones that you will be looking for. Last up, the Sony WH-1000XM4. These are the newest iteration. And the best thing about these headphones, this pair here, is when I took it up, I realized that they feel quite light actually. Maybe not really because it's very light, but it does feel quite airy. And when you put them on, the clamping pressure is actually very, very low, but it still doesn't run around. It is secure, just enough clamping pressure not to feel that it is getting anywhere near uncomfortable. I have fairly large heads, so most of the phones I have will feel like they're clamping at quite a high pressure, but not for these guys. In terms of comfort, these guys are super comfortable. Coming to the noise cancelling, the XM4s does this job very, very well. In terms of noise cancelling, out of the whole bunch here, this will probably be the ones to go for if you want superior noise cancelling. I find the Bose NC700 to be okay in terms of noise cancelling. I do find these to be slightly better in terms of damping out external voices and sound. I would say the quality of the noise cancelling here is probably on par, if not even slightly better than the Bose QC35. The Bose QC35 are by far one of the best noise cancelling headphones out there, even by today's standard. When you put on a pair of QC35, you can actually very, very quickly and in a very surreal manner feel that all the sounds from the outside world has been blocked out. It is that amazing, and this replicates that even without turning it on. The soft padding here and the slightly larger area actually attenuates the outside sound quite significantly. There's another function on this pair of headphones that makes me use this more than any of the other pair of headphones that I have at the moment, and that will be the multi-point pairing. So what I can do is I can pair these guys with my iPhone and my Mac at the same time. Okay, when I'm working on my Mac and the music is playing on the Mac, when a call comes in on my iPhone, it actually swaps over and I can carry on to the conversation without lifting a finger and having to meddle with my settings or connecting or any sort of pairing on the phone at all. It just swaps and cuts over beautifully, and that is the multi-point connectivity that is making me like this pair of headphones very, very much. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to run through a bit of frequency testing. Caveat, I actually don't know how to test the frequency response curves for headphones properly. I'm using a U-Mic 1 here. This is a high sensitivity USB mic that is connected to my laptop that is running REW. So I'll run a frequency sweep and I'll measure the frequency response of the entire sweep from 20 Hz all the way to 20 kHz. And when I put it up, I have to put it up next to the cup. I'm not sure whether that's the best way to do it. So I won't put too much emphasis on this frequency response curve. Maybe I'll do a little bit more research and find a better way to measure the frequency response curves for these cans that I have here. So let me just pull out the curve and I will show you all the 5 curves here all at once. The purple line that you will see is that of the AirPods Pro. You will see that the bass response is suffering, but from about 2 kHz to 5 kHz, there is a bump there. So the response is probably the highest for the AirPods Pro amongst all the cans here that is tested within the 2 kHz to 5 kHz range. The next up, the yellow ones, and that is, the yellow curve represents that of the Beyerdynamic's Lagoon ANC. You'll see that the bass bump is actually the highest. I know I said this, I said that the Beats Studio 3 are the bass monster here, but this, I don't know, the frequency response, maybe the seal is better when I'm doing the mic testing, but the bass response comes out to be even higher. Then it tails on all the way down to a relatively flat curve in the higher frequencies from mid-range onwards. The Bowers and Wilkins PX. This is represented by the blue curve. And the blue curve, you will see that it peaks at about 300 Hz. Well, I think that coincides with my observation that these cans are great for vocals. So when I'm listening to vocals and I'm listening especially to female vocals, I actually go to these pair of cans if my mood calls for female vocals or any sort of vocal bias music. And for the rest of the curves, you'll see that the bass response isn't the best. So the rest of the curve, there's a dip at about 3000 plus Hertz, and that will cause some of the stronger, higher frequencies to take a step back. So it probably explains why I find that the sound is a little bit darker for this pair of headphones. Next up, we have the Beats Studio 3. Now these are bass monsters, like I've said, and if you follow the green curve there, the green curve, the bass, same as the Bayer's Lagoon ANC, it has a very pronounced bass to it. And when you listen to this pair of headphones, all you'll be hearing is really literally bass. The mid-range is not great. The higher end is not great. I don't know what to make out of this pair of headphones. If you want bass in your music, go for this, forget the rest, this guy. And last up, the Sony WH-1000XM4. This is represented by the red curve up here. If you look at the red curve, it is actually the flattest curve of the lot. So in terms of accuracy, this seems to indicate that there's no artificial bass bumping or bass dips that you will hear. And by right, based on the curve that you're looking at here, this should sound the best. Don't get me wrong, I find that the Beyerdynamic's Lagoon ANC actually sounds very, very good for music, but these aren't bad either. In terms of pure musical performance, I will still go for that guy, but I don't use it as much because of the multi-point pairing that I have on this guy. And it just fits into my workflow in any given day when I'm listening to music or working on files and the calls are coming in. Usability-wise, the Sony gets my vote. Yes, so I have blabbered on quite a bit today about all these headphones that I own. And some of you are going to ask me, hey, how about the Bose NC700? I didn't buy those because I didn't like the way it was clamping my head and the fit that it was that when I tried it in the store. Now, if it doesn't fit in the store, when you go home, it's going to be worse because in the store, you're testing it for 5, 10, 15 minutes. When you're back at home, each listening, an hour, 2 hours, it's not going to feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable with the Bose, so I didn't buy it, and therefore, I'm not testing it. In conclusion, if you look at all these headphones here, and I've not gotten rid of any of these, and the reason being that they're all good for different things and different types of music even, and it depends on what I'm doing and what I'm going to be doing with the music or with the podcast, and I will choose the right pair of phones to use for that specific purpose. So if you have a very, very strong use case and you have one dominant use case, then pick them for what they are worth, what they are good at. If you are listening to podcasts and talk on the phone a lot, the AirPods Pro. If you want pure, outright musical performance all round, then the beyerdynamic Lagoon ANC. If you wanted a darker sound and if you wanted something that is built to really, really last a long time, then the Bose and Wilkins PX. If you are a bass head and you need a lot of bass, then the Studio 3 from Beats. And if you want multi-point pairing and if you want comfort and ease of use, then it will be the Sony WH-1000XM4. Not to mention that the noise cancelling performance will actually be the most superior on the Sony over any of the rest of the headphones that we are talking about today. So this is how I run my content. I tell you about my use cases, I tell you about how I use these products on a day-to-day basis, and this is how a regular consumer like you will use it. I avoid trying to go into specifications and I avoid trying to talk about the specs where it is much easier for you to go online and search those out and read it rather than listen to me dictate them out for you. My voice is not that great. So if you enjoy the way that I'm doing things, do consider subscribing to my channel and click a like or leave your comments in the comment section below. I'm not very happy with the frequency testing that I've done for these headphones because I'm still trying to figure out. So if you have a better way to test this, let me know. I'm most willing to learn and try to figure out how best to test headphones. Otherwise, right now for headphones, you probably have to depend a little bit on my subjective opinion on how they perform. I've recently done a deep dive into a Sonos headphone patent document. I'm linking the video right up here. If you are interested, do take a look at that. That I believe will be a headphone like no others. All this relies on Bluetooth. That could be the first Wi-Fi headphone that is available to us headphone lovers. So do check out the video if you are interested. And I'll see you in my next video.